Are you one of those people that love to watch the world burn? Flames all around. You're sitting there just putting up your hands like this and just laughing. If you're a college football fan and you're that type of person, you were in heaven on Thursday afternoon. Late Wednesday night, Nick Saban goes after Jimbo Fisher, goes after Deion Sanders. Jimbo Fisher calls his own press conference, gets after Nick Saban, his former boss. Saban responds on Sirius XM radio, and how this all comes into play for the Tennessee Volunteers. Buckle up and get your popcorn ready. This is Friday's Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good Friday, everybody, and welcome into it. This is Locked On Vols, your team every single day. Can't thank you enough for hanging out with me here today. And boy, do we have a show for you. Goodness gracious. It's the offseason. It's list season. Talking season's coming a little bit earlier, and the offseason gods have been good to us, college football fans. This show might be a little bit different compared to your normal Locked On Vols show. This is going to be more of a Locked On college football show, more of a Locked On SEC show. Allow me to do my best Chris Gordy impersonation, okay? We're going to tie it into the Volunteers at the end of the show, and we're going to get you my reaction at the end of the show. But basically what I want to do here to end the week, and as you're driving to work, as you're on the treadmill, as you're sitting in the cubicle here, it's Friday, all right? We want to enjoy ourselves. I'm going to chronologically paint a picture via audio form, or if you're listening on podcast or on YouTube, what's up? I'm going to paint the picture and describe exactly what has gone on in the last, all this happened in the span of 14 hours, by the way, but it was late Wednesday nights, Thursday late morning, and now it's time to react here. Of course, the next episode of Locked On Vols now here on a Friday morning. So that's what's on the docket today. And I mean, cherry on top, an SEC reprimand at the end of Thursday. And don't forget, these coaches have to square off in less than 2 weeks at the spring meetings in SEC Destin. So, or SEC spring meetings in Destin, Florida. So it is about to get wild, everybody. And we're going to break it all down here on Locked On Vols here today on a Friday show. Hey, can't thank you enough for hanging out with me today. Locked On Vols every single day on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And it never goes unnoticed that you choose to hang out with me here on the show. And very, very do much appreciate that. So let's go and get started. Nick Saban meeting with a group of business owners, businessmen and women, and essentially, soliciting for some money, trying to raise some money for his football program. And he's taking to the mic, he's talking, there's cameras rolling, there's recorders out there, and he knows this. This was premeditated, right? He's asked the question about name, image, and likeness. And Nick Saban goes on for nearly 7 minutes. Here's 30 seconds of the best part of that 7 minutes. You probably heard it before, but this is Nick Saban Wednesday night in a business setting when the cameras were rolling, when asked about name, image, and likeness, and Nick Saban chooses violence.
And you've read about them. You know who they are. I mean, we were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. All right, we didn't buy one player. All right, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it.
So we have Nick Saban here going after Jimbo Fisher. Says that, hey, Alabama was second in recruiting this past year. Texas A&M was first. A&M bought every single player. Wow. Okay, so again, we'll talk about it later in the show, but I mean, we all think it's, especially like if you're in a coaching fraternity, it truly is that it's a fraternity. You're all thinking it. You all talk off the record with your fellow peers. No one goes on the record and just takes a right hook to the jaw of one of your fellow peers, right? That's what Nick Saban, the goat of all goats in college football, that's what Nick Saban did to Jimbo Fisher on a Wednesday night. I don't care. I'm indifferent on the whole matter. I think it's hilarious. Again, because I'm here grinning from ear to ear because I get to talk about it on the radio and on this podcast with you guys. So Nick Saban, you just heard it there, goes after Jimbo Fisher, all right? Then, get this, Saban goes on, I don't have the quotes on this, or I don't have the audio on this, rather. Saban goes on to talk about Jacksonville State and Deion Sanders. Jacksonville State, this is a quote, Jacksonville State paid a guy $1 million last year, speaking on a five-star prospect, Travis Hunter, who was committed to Florida State, who flipped on National Signing Day. to go to Jacksonville State with Deion Sanders. Again, quote, Jacksonville State paid a guy $1 million last year who was a really good Division I player to come to their school, said Saban. It was in the paper, and they bragged about it. No one did a thing. Talking about Travis Hunter, Deion Sanders responds, this is late Wednesday night via a tweet. You best believe I will address the, in all caps, lie. Coach Saban, in all caps, told tomorrow, Sanders wrote on Twitter. I was awakened by my son that sent me the article stating that we paid, in all caps, Travis Hunter $1 million to play at Jacksonville State. This is in all caps. We as people don't have to pay our people to play with our people. So Deion Sanders, always a flair for the dramatic, goes after him on Twitter saying, hey, I will respond tomorrow. Again, this is Wednesday, the time I'm recording at about 6 p.m. I haven't seen a response from him. If that was it, then that's fine. Travis Hunter goes on the Twitter machine on Wednesday, and he says, I got a mail, ? But my mom still stay in a 3-bedroom house with 5 kids. Deion Sanders quote tweets it and says, I don't even get paid $1 million. So that all happened on Wednesday. All right, this is Nick Saban at the time of the Jacksonville State signing of Travis Hunter, okay? This is obviously a couple months ago. Quote, I have a lot of respect for Deion Sanders. He's a good coach. He's a good guy. Was a great player. He's a great personality, and I enjoy doing the commercials with him. They do Aflac commercials together, or so they did. But it's not for me to comment on who makes what decisions to go where based on what circumstances. He got a great player, and I think that's good for his program. I'm not really going to make any comments about what happened. I don't really know the background or the details or what happened there, but everybody has the right to make those choices and those decisions. That's why it's America. Everybody has the freedom of choice. I'm happy for him that he got a great player. So that was Nick Saban at the time when Deion Sanders was able to get Travis Hunter to flip and come to Jacksonville State. So that was the whole. So we heard the Jimbo side of things, Saban on Jimbo and Texas A&M. We heard Nick Saban on Jacksonville State and Deion Sanders. Now, Saban wasn't done. He goes on as well and talks about the Miami basketball program. So, Saban, this is a quote. These guys at Miami that are going to play basketball there for $400,000, that's in the newspaper. The guy tells you how he's going to do it, but the NCAA can't enforce the rules because it's not against the law. And that's an issue. That's a problem. And unless we get something that protects them from litigation, I don't know what we're going to be able to do about it. End quote. Again, the basketball player that transferred to Miami from Kansas State, who Saban's referring to, is Nigel Peck, one of the most sought-after guys in the transfer portal this offseason. Whew, all right. If you remember as well, go back to National Signing Day. Lane Kiffin, or Nick Saban, wasn't the only one here recently that spoke out on name, image, and likeness, and Texas A&M. Lane Kiffin was one of the first ones there, and we know on this podcast, we make fun of Lane Kiffin because all he is a crybaby because he doesn't have the financial support from his boosters or from the collectives for boosters for the program, for the school, collectives for name, image, and likeness purposes, all that and more, because he's in Oxford, Mississippi. He doesn't have that type of support, and he's so frustrated because if he was at Southern Cal, he'd be rolling in it, right? So Nick Saban on National Signing Day a couple months ago, let's rewind, was really the first one to come out and talk about this. This is a quote. It's basically like everybody's got different salary caps. I joked the other day that they're going to implement a luxury tax on Texas and Texas A&M. What they're paying their players is unbelievable. It's legal. You've got players who have never played before making hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. It is what it is, but it's not going to be equal playing field around the country at all. Duh, because you're in Oxford. What would happen in the NFL if people had different salary caps? Eventually, those guys with the higher salary caps are going to win a lot of games, end quote. I mean, what Saban's saying is not incorrect, but again, we make fun of what Lane Kiffin's saying right here is not incorrect, but we make fun of Lane Kiffin on this podcast because we all know that if he was in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, if he was in Miami, Florida, if he was in Southern Cal, if he was anywhere else, if he was in Austin, Texas, if he was in Baton Rouge, he would be sitting here spinning it like Scrooge McDuck, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it is. So this was all Nick Saban on Wednesday night, going after Jimbo Fisher, verbally going after Jimbo Fisher, accusing Jimbo Fisher of buying players, going after Deion Sanders, going after Travis Hunter, going after the Miami basketball program. This was all on a Wednesday night. So again, people talk behind the scenes. People talk off the records. You hear rumblings, or on the record, it's generalities, right? It's, some people aren't doing the right thing, or there are some people in the conference who aren't doing the right thing or cheating or whatever, but it's never Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M are buying players. This is unheard of. And a lot of you guys listening right now are older than I am. This is unheard of. This is insane, right? This is wild, and I love talking about it. Coming up next year on Locked On Vols, Jimbo Fisher's response, and oh boy, do we have a clip to play for you. Oh my goodness. Wow. Content gold. I love it. Built Bar. I love the brownies, but you know what I love more is the brownie batter. Sometimes I eat half of the batter while I'm trying to make the brownies. Imagine if you could lick the brownie spatula clean and get some protein in it as well. You talk about, coming full circle. That'd be awesome. You're in luck because Built has a new creation that is one of the best ever. The brownie batter puff. You heard me right. It is a puff that's protein bars, that takes the protein bars a whole new level, and they're available right now at Built.com. Have you tried the Built Bar Puffs yet? I'm not sure what you're waiting on if you haven't. Puffs are chocolate-covered marshmallow protein bars. That's right, delicious flavored marshmallows covered in 100% chocolate, and all Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate, and they taste so great, but they're good for you. The brownie batter buff will get you completely forgetting that you're eating a protein bar. No need to pinch yourself. No, it is real life. I'm telling you right here. I'm reading it right now. Go to Built.com to get your brownie batter puffs now. And I told you that Built.com sent me a whole case of the birthday cake puff bars. They are fantastic. I can oblige. I can let you know they are fantastic. You should try them out as well. Go to Built.com. Try the brownie batter puffs and the birthday cake puffs all at Built.com. While you're there, put Lock15 to get 15% off your next order. That's Lock15 for 15% off. That's all at Built.com. Welcome back to Locked On Vols, this really, really exciting Friday edition. I'm Eric Kane. You can find this podcast on Twitter at _Kaner and at Locked On Vols. And guys, if you haven't already, be sure to be dialed into the Locked On NBA Big Board. That's Locked On NBA Big Board, getting you ready through the NBA draft process, through the NBA draft combine. Kennedy Chandler's raising some eyebrows there as well. If you haven't, make that your second listen. Locked On NBA Big Board, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. So, that was Nick Saban's side of things on a Wednesday night. Boy, did Jimbo Fisher respond. So I'm sitting here. I'm about to leave work. It's about 10:45, and someone comes down the hall and says, "Hey, Kaner, you've got Jimbo Fisher about to. He just scheduled his own press conference for in 10 minutes, 11 o'clock or whatever time it was." And I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, can this guy not be any more defensive? He is so embarrassing. It's like a defensive back when you have pass interference. Oh, put your hands up. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Well, you're putting your hands up. You're guilty, right? Jimbo Fisher is always so defensive. Remember National Signing Day when he came out and he pretty much bashed Lane Kiffin for his comments that we just read just a moment ago, called him an immature baby and all this type of stuff. And he did this on the record. Well, I mean, again, he looks so defensive. And usually when you're so defensive, you're doing something wrong. Jimbo Fisher calls his own press conference. Jimbo Fisher has a lot to say, all directed to Nick Saban. I took some of the better quotes and I mashed them up. Give this a listen. Jimbo Fisher at his own press conference that he called in response to the comments from Nick Saban just 14 hours before, guys. Just 14 hours before. Give this a listen. Jimbo Fisher in a press conference setting, a mashup from his 10-minute press conference on Thursday morning.
First of all, I'll say it's a shame that we have to do this. It's really despicable. It's despicable that somebody can say things about somebody and an organization. More importantly, 17-year-old kids. You're taking shots at 17-year-old kids and their families. That they broke state laws. That they're all money. We bought every player on this group. We never bought anybody. No rules were broken. Nothing was done wrong. The way we do things, the ethics in which we do things, and these families, it's despicable that a reputable head coach could come out and say this when he doesn't get his way or things don't go his way. The narcissist in him doesn't allow those things to happen, and it's ridiculous when he's not on top. And the parity in college football he's been talking about, go talk to coaches who coach for him. You'll find out all the parity. Go dig into wherever he's been. You can find out anything. And it's a shame that you got to sit here and defend 17-year-old kids and families. And Texas A&M, because we do things right, we're always going to do things right. But we're always going to be here. We're doing a heck of a job. These coaches have done a great job. Our players have done a great job. The whole organization of recruiting people. It's despicable that we got to sit here at this level of ball and say these things to defend the people of this organization, the kids, 17-year-old kids and their families. It's amazing. Some people think they're God. Go dig into how God did his deal. You may find out about a guy that a lot of things you don't want to know. We built him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past or anybody that's ever coached with him. You can find out anything you want to find out, what he does and how he does it. And it's despicable. It really is. And it's a shame we have to sit up here and have this conversation about things we do. And it's personal to us? Yes, it is. It's personal to A&M. It's personal to our players. It's personal to our coaches and everybody involved. And I know the guy. Know him really well. It's amazing that we're allowed to do those things. It's really despicable. And I hate it for our players who are coming here, who did things the right way, have done things the right way, and will continue to do things the right way. I apologize to you that people insult you publicly the way they're doing it. And our fans, I apologize to you guys for people saying those things about Texas A&M. But promise you this, there are no violations. There are nothing wrong. It's the second time we've had to do this with grown men who don't get their way and want to pout, throw a fit, and act up. Just go ask all the people who work for him. You'll know exactly what he's about. I always said this. My dad always told me this. When people show you who they are, believe them. He's showing you who he is.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Again, guys, we've never seen this before. We have never seen this on the record. If the SEC, if it doesn't mean more in the SEC before yesterday, then it never will mean any more than it ever will, if that makes sense. I mean, we're sitting here at the end of May. College football season is now, and when you're listening to this, 99 days away. I mean, can we just run through a brick wall at this point? Can we get out there and play some college football and watch some college football and support your team and cover your teams? And oh my goodness, this is awesome. This is freaking fantastic. Some of the notables there from that 2-minute and 7-second rant that I just played you there from Jimbo Fisher. A shame and despicable that we're even having to be here today. His favorite word throughout that rant was despicable. Despicable. No rules were broken. Nothing was done wrong. That's just fact. From Jimbo Fisher. The narcissist in him doesn't allow that to happen, meaning parity in the game of college football, meaning the gap to close. The narcissist in him. Jimbo Fisher is calling Nick Saban a narcissist. Woo! Go dig into what's been going on at that point, talking about all the other all the other coaches who used to coach for him. Go dig into how God did his deal, saying that, like, when you walk on water, nothing else matters, referring to him as God. Go check into his backgrounds. Go pull the skeletons out of his closet is what Jimbo Fisher is saying. The czar of football. Go dig into his past. Calls him God, calls him the czar of football, calls him a narcissist. He's showing who he is. And then, oh yeah, he said, my father would slap me upside the head, and then says maybe Nick Saban should be slapped upside the head when he was a child too. Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. Jimbo Fisher goes on to say, I don't have the audio of this, but maybe somebody should have slapped him too. I just mentioned that soliciting more money when you walk on water, I guess it doesn't matter. He said the funny thing about it is the whole setting was for him to raise money that night. He says, when you walk on water, I guess it doesn't matter because you're sitting there doing the same thing. And then he said, ask about, is it going to be awkward when you play each other, the next time here in the fall, or is it the SEC spring meetings coming up in a few weeks? He said, no, I'm not afraid of confrontation. Never have been. I kind of like it. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness. That was Jimbo Fisher on a Thursday morning. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that freaking awesome? Nick Saban responds on Sirius XM radio Thursday afternoon. Quote, I'm going to read you off a series of tweets here, okay? Quote, I should have never singled anyone out. That was a mistake, and I apologize for that. So obviously Nick Saban already backtracking a little bit. Nick Saban on Sirius XM radio says he's tried to contact Jimbo Fisher and Deion Sanders. I reached out to them. I never got a response. I feel bad about it. I'm not changing my philosophy. I look at the betterment of college football. Nick Saban on Sirius XM college football. My concern is college football in general. I think a lot of us are concerned about it. People want to understand what's happening in college football, why players are transferring and getting money to do so. Nick Saban again. I wasn't saying anyone did anything illegal. Yes, you were. That's something that was assumed. No, bro, you literally said they're buying players. They are buying players. That was something that was assumed. That wasn't what I meant or what I said. It's not illegal. It's the system that allows you to do it that I have a problem with. Okay, if you have a problem with what's happening and what's being allowed right now, that's one thing. I think that's the issue right there with Nick Saban is I think people like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, a lot of coaches around the game, and a lot of college football fans who've been in this for generations and decades, they have an issue with what's happening. They have an issue that it's being allowed. So that's completely fair. But Nick Saban, you straight up pointed the finger, brother. You went after Jimbo Fisher. So don't come at me with this, man. You're backtracking like a defensive back way back in your college days. Don't come at me like this, Nick Saban. Come on, this is crap. He goes on to say, if alumni give money or money is raised through a collective to give to a player, that's no different than alumni giving the player money. I disagree with that 100%. The collective becomes a representative of the school, and you can't do that. That is factually incorrect. That is not correct by Nick Saban right there. Oh my gosh. And on top of all this, Thursday afternoon, the SEC issues a public reprimand of Alabama's Nick Saban and Texas A&M's Jimbo Fisher for their comments in the last 24 hours for violating SEC bylaws 10.2.3 and 10.5.2 related to ethical conduct for derogatory comments and public criticism for another institution's athletics program. And on top of all that, at the time of this recording in real time, Pittsburgh wide receiver Jordan Addison announces he will transfer to Southern Cal. Okay, so tampering. It really was the entire time. Those fake visits he went on to Alabama and to some other schools. He was going to USC from the get-go, and he ended up at USC. So, guys, what do we think about all that? What do we think about all of that? Isn't that wild? Again, a lot of the stuff that I've gone over the last two segments, you've already heard, you've already read. I'm trying to put it in chronological order for you. And then it's time to react a little bit. We've heard from Nick Saban. Nick Saban had to say about Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. We heard what Nick Saban had to say about Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter. We heard what Nick Saban had to say about the basketball program. We heard what Jimbo Fisher had to say about Nick Saban, and he was not at a loss for words. He knew exactly what he wanted to say, and these guys are just throwing verbal haymakers at one another right now. The SEC spring meetings is in less than 2 weeks. This is going to be incredible. October 8th, I believe, is when Texas A&M travels to Alabama. Oh boy, this is going to be amazing, amazing content. And I'll tell you what, Alabama is going to beat them by 56. I guarantee it. So that's what we got to look forward to. Coming up next year on Locked On Vols, how does this, my reaction to all this, who's more in the wrong, who's more in the right? Overall, I love it. It's awesome. And how does this affect Tennessee? Spoiler, it doesn't. It doesn't affect Tennessee whatsoever. That's what you have to look forward to as we conclude a week's worth of Locked On Vols coming up next right here on the show. But our partners at BetOnline.net continue to be the source for your sports betting needs information. Hey, BetOnline.net put out the lines, the season opening week 1 lines for college football against Ball State. Tennessee's a 28-point favorite, a 4-touchdown favorite in this football game on a Thursday night. No surprise, Tennessee should run away with that. But what I want to know is, who would be in the minus? Who would be in the plus? Who would have the juice if it was Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher, getting into a steel cage match? I want to know that right now. Where are the odds on that? BetOnline, get on that. But until then, you can go on BetOnline, see all the latest odds and news and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continuous source for all your sports wagering information, live betting, playoffs, esports, and a whole lot more. Head on over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about all the latest trends and all of the action. BetOnline.net. It is where the game starts. It's been a fun show so far here on a Friday Locked On Vols. Again, guys, I know I don't think you mind. You come here for your Vols content. We haven't talked much Vols. We'll get into it a little bit here in this segment, but I don't think you mind because sometimes I think some stories are bigger than just one team, right? This is a college football story. This is an SEC football story, and this is all about name, image, and likeness, which affects everybody, right? I was encouraging some of the other college channel hosts here on this network. I'm like, guys, this is all of us, right? This feud, because name, image, and likeness ain't going away. So it's about A&M, it's about Alabama, it's about Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. But it can be about Josh Heupel in Tennessee. It can be about Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. It can be about Kentucky and Mark Stoops. Well, maybe not quite that far, but still, you know what I'm saying. This is huge. And Pat Forty put out an article at SI.com on Thursday afternoon, and I thought it was fantastic. Okay, so basically, he's sitting here just saying, what we're seeing right now is unprecedented. Meaning what I've been saying the entire show. So many times you have coaches that kind of band together, have conversations on the sideline, meet at midfield before the game. They talk, they call each other, they text each other, whatever the case may be. And you have off the record conversations about some of your peers who might be breaking the rules. It's an assumption that, this coach is cheating or this coach is bending the rules or this coach isn't doing it the right way. It's an assumption, right? But never would you go to that press conference after the game and say, well, good win today. But boy, did you see what Lane Kiffin's doing over there? He's cheating in Oxford, getting those guys, driving him around in his Benz. Can you believe that? You know what they're saying about Lane Kiffin. No one's ever going to do that in a public setting because, again, it's a fraternity. It's a brotherhood, if you will. You might not like your brother, but you're going to respect your brother. And the way I look at it's like this. I was talking to somebody on Twitter about this, Blake, actually, a childhood friend of mine. We were tweeting back and forth. If you're a college football coach, you live in a glass house, okay? Your glass house is here on this street. Your glass house is here on this hill. Your glass house is here on this plateau, whatever the case may be. It's really, really hard that when you live in a glass house, when you live in the spotlight, to be critical in the public eye of anybody else. You know why? Because you're inviting the whole world into your castle. You really, really are. And it's the belief that if you're not everybody's a cheater, quote unquote, but everybody's been in the rules. Some people are straight up cheating. Jeremy Pruitt was fired for cause for cheating. It's college football. It's not breaking news here. It's not brand new, right? We've had cases that go all the way back 100 years. People offering, recruits in the 1920s to go and play football at some institution, right, or to stay at this institution. This has gone back 100 years, all right? But when you are publicly critical of somebody else, you're inviting the whole world into your castle. That's why, it's my job for a living to react, create content, and of course to cover Tennessee football when they're out there and there's something newsworthy and dig into the story, report on practice, all that type of stuff. And I enjoy doing it. I love it. But, in terms of personal matters and everything, and I'm nowhere. I'm not trying to say I'm Nick Saban or Jimbo Fisher. I'm on that level because I'm nowhere close to it. But gosh, I would never publicly criticize someone for something personal because I feel like I'm a good guy, but I don't want people snooping around in my business. You know what I'm saying? That's for all of us, right? And so what we're seeing with Nick Saban, what we're seeing with Jimbo Fisher, what we're seeing with coaches around the SEC, Lane Kiffin's been involved in this too. This is just wild. This is going up against the unspoken rules, the unwritten rules that it just kind of, you don't do that. You don't do that because you're going to bring the whole thing down. So the SEC, it just means more. This is absolutely wild on the last couple of 4 hours or so. So how does this affect Tennessee? It doesn't. Nick Saban even said it in his, when he went on Sirius XM radio on Thursday afternoon, even in his little apology when he was stepping back, he even says, "Hey, I didn't say anyone cheated. It's legal. I have a problem with the system." Well, first of all, that's incorrect, as I pointed out, because you point blank said that they bought players and that they were cheating. All right. How does this affect Tennessee? It doesn't affect Tennessee. Okay. Nico Iamaleava is coming to the University of Tennessee, and there will be tremendous opportunity for him to make money when he's on campus in the Tennessee quarterback. Okay. There will be monumental type money for him to make when he's on campus and he's here, right? There's nothing illegal about that. It's name, image, and likeness. It's the era of football we're in. What the issue behind all this is that the NCAA lollygagging around for 30 years, not getting their affairs in order, and then, name, image, likeness is passed. The one-time transfer waiver portal is passed, and it's the wild, it's hell right now in terms of just, if you're a older football fan, or if you're an old coach like Nick Saban, or if you're an old basketball coach like Jay Wright, or even older like Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski, deuces, I'm out. I can't take it anymore. Rick Barnes, I've done something some way for so long, and now everything's changing. I don't believe Rick Barnes is a huge fan of name, image, and likeness. I truly don't. You know why? Because he's done it without it for 40 years. He's not going to retire, but you know what I'm saying? I don't think he's a fan of it, and I don't blame him from that aspect. You're creatures of habit. So you can hate all that's going on right now, but it's legal. It is legal in the state of Tennessee. It is legal for members of a collective to speak to assistant coaches on Tennessee staff. That is legal. Okay. Spire, who is one of the leaders in all the college industry in terms of collectives here, focus so much of their efforts on student athletes who are on campus right now, and not just in football, in baseball, in basketball, in women's basketball. Okay. When you get on campus, you'll have opportunities to earn revenue, to bring in money via your name, image, and likeness. And that's been their focus the entire time. So how does this affect Tennessee? Well, it doesn't affect Tennessee. Everybody's going to point to Tennessee. Nico Iamaleava, $8 million from that athletic story a couple months ago, right? Everybody assumes that's about Nico. I don't know. I truly don't know. I don't know. But when you get here on campus and you start making money on that is not against the rules. So the whole problem here is you can't use name, image, and likeness as an inducement. Well, I'm not saying go after it. I'm not saying that's happening anywhere. I mean, I'm sure it is. But I mean, my God, what on earth did you expect? You can't sit here and tell me as a college football coach or as a university president or as a member of the NCAA Division Board Council and say, okay, our only stipulation is you can't use this as an inducement. Go have fun. What? This is all on the NCAA. What the heck did you think was going to happen? So be mad at what's happening right now, Nick Saban. Be mad at the NCAA Board of Governors. Be mad at all because they're the ones that screwed all of this up. Like I said last week, tooth out of the bottle, tube, whatever you want to call it. Somebody said it's not called a bottle, it's called tube. Toothpaste tube, sure. Toothpaste tube, out of it, can't get it back in. That's where we are right now. Nothing is going to happen. You follow the rules. You focus on the student athletes on campus. You provide a safe and a friendly environment for your prospective student athletes to come here and sign. And essentially, you don't do in the old days, like, when you had bagmen, now you just put it on the books and it's legal. Excuse me. It is completely legal. And people are mad about that. So how is this going to affect Tennessee? Excuse me. It's not. It will not affect Tennessee whatsoever. It's not going to affect Nico Iamaleava. And even if that was done the wrong way, which I don't believe it was, how you going to prove it, right? I mean, how you going to prove it, right? Because the guidelines are not in place. So just like Nick Saban said, unless there's litigation in there and, the Congress steps in and puts some laws into place, nothing is going to happen. Jimbo Fisher said that. Nick Saban said that. That's been said the last couple of days, and I agree with them. Nothing's going to change whatsoever. One more note here on that note in terms of litigation and all that type of stuff. So it was released earlier this week. If I can find it. It was released earlier this week. Here we go. That this is from Dennis Dodd. The NCAA has paid out $304.5 million in outside legal expenses the last 7 years. That's $43.5 million per year, $3.625 million per month, $836,000 per week, and $119,000 per day. $4,959.92 an hour in outside legal fees. In other words, fighting name, image, and likeness at the Congress level. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. Congress has the backs of these student athletes. State and local politicians have the backs of these student athletes because for far too long, it's just been a crime that you can't profit off your name, image, and likeness. So it's been a trip. It has truly, truly been a trip here the last couple hours, and I'm glad that we get to end our show like that. Let me get a swig of water because obviously I've been animated all show, and my voice a little scratchy. That's better. That's better. I hope you guys got as fired up as I did about what's been going on right now because it is completely, completely nuts. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on Locked On Vols today. As always, leave us a review. Leave us 5 stars. That will go a long way. Throw us a like on YouTube. Helps with the algorithm. Really, really do appreciate that. But most of all, thank you so much for listening. And we'll come back next week as we'll talk Tennessee baseball, wrapping up the regular season, getting ready for Hoover, the latest in Tennessee basketball in terms of roster management, Tennessee football, SEC spring meetings is coming up. The SEC spring meetings, a big topic of discussion will be divisions. Do you away with them? How's that going to work? Plenty of fun stuff to get into on the show over the next couple weeks, and we'll do it all right here on Locked On Vols. If you haven't made Locked On SEC your second listen, you better do it today because Chris Gordy will have loads to talk about, just like I did, regarding Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, and some other teams around the conference, including Tennessee. Make that your second listen right here on Locked On Vols, which is your first listen each and every day. All right, boys and girls, thank you so much, and until next time, enjoy your weekend and enjoy your Friday, everybody.